Here we are then. Prices. As I mentioned before, prices and sales and money seems to be a bit of a swear word in our PT vocabulary. It shouldn't be, of course. We are all professionals. We are service providers, and there aren't many services that are free, and rightly so, because you have a extremely valuable service to provide, and you should be charging for it. All you have to do, first of all, before you present prices, is create desire and value. It's very difficult when a member who visits a gym and pays £40 a month for the privilege, if they do 2 workouts a week, let's take the example of someone who does that, and it's 8 or 9 workouts in a month for 40 quid, they quickly do maths in their head and they go, right, that's about £5 a visit. They then maybe would look at a price list for a personal trainer and see that it's £40 an hour. And they just can't add it up. They just can't understand how they can be charged equivalent of £5 a visit just to work out on their own, but it's 8 times that to do the same duration, the same kind of workout, but have someone standing next to them. Now, that's for people who, and I think that there is a dwindling number of those people who just simply don't understand what personal training is. So, in order for you not to have to bridge that gap in perception, you've got to create this desire and value. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is just think about some of these questions. Think about how you can integrate these questions into your own thinking before you go creating that price presentation and showing it to your prospects. Does that member or prospect know what they could achieve with your support? So we hope that we trust in our service to make sure that anybody who takes on that service will get from A to B quicker than they could do on their own. If you can't answer that with a yes, then maybe you need to look at the way that you are supporting that prospect or pledging that you could support that prospect in the future before presenting prices. Have you differentiated your service from the rest? Now, the rest might not necessarily be the other PTs in your club, if you are in a gym environment, or PTs in your park or the area in which you are working. The service might be aligned to apps on a phone. It might be aligned to a DVD that someone's just got for Christmas. A pal that thinks they know what they're doing and gets a couple of copies of Men's Fitness and thinks that they're a legend. So there's various different competitors, if you like, some of which who are real, some of which are virtual, some of which are in the press, online. So there's a number of competitors out there that you've got to make sure you differentiate from. It's pretty easy when you're differentiating yourself from a piece of software or a magazine, simply because you are a human being. You connect, you have a personality that those other things don't, and therefore you can easily differentiate yourself from the rest. People who think that apps and other pieces of technology are a competitor to their business, just think about this. A personal trainer is 2 things. You are a source of knowledge and education. You're also a personality and a connection expert. A mobile phone, no matter how cool it is and how modern it is and how much it's an iPhone 26 or whatever the latest version is, does not have a personality. When you speak to Siri, that person, whoever it is, that computer-generated voice is not particularly exciting, is not a great personality. So I would encourage you just to rely on the fact that you are an expert in connection, you have a fantastic personality, and you have a growing amount of experience and knowledge as you do courses and as you simply be a personal trainer as the weeks and months go by. Okay. Have you showcased your non-practical and practical skills before you? What you might do as part of your service, and I would encourage you to do this if you don't, is before you start selling to members and prospects, is is to showcase your skills. Now, historically, showcasing your skills has meant doing a workout, being a practical trainer. But more and more members know what that looks like. They know what that is, and they know that a Viper is a big rubber tube, and they know that a kettlebell, you swing it around a bit, because they're getting a bit more savvy. They've got much more means of finding out what it is that a PT does. What they don't know is how much you care and how much you can find out about them, so that everything you do is specific to that individual human being. So where it says non-practical skills, they're probably more important than the practical skills. I did a webinar, a similar one to this, but it was about connecting. Maybe some of you were able to jump onto that. But that one was just really saying, if you want to be able to connect to a prospect, you've got to do that in a number of different ways: emotional intelligence, rapport building, etc., etc. In order to get some really key emotional reasons why that person is seeing you today. If you can't get at that, and you can't build that rapport and use great personal skills to do so, you could showcase the best practical skills in the world ever, and you might not, in fact, you probably won't make that connection and that platform from which to sell. So the non-practical showcase is just as important, if not more important, than the practical one. And there you go. Have you built sufficient rapport with the member before you sell? You may not sell. You may choose to not sell until you have built that rapport with the member, and that's absolutely fine. You may decide to sell earlier than normal because you built a fantastic rapport with somebody. You don't need to showcase your practical skills, and that's also fine. But as a default setting, I would advise that you build sufficient rapport before doing anything around prices. Buying signs. Now that's an interesting one. You can encourage the member to show you some buying signs. You can do something very clever called presumptive closing. Now, it's not closing like you will do at the end of the process. It's just dropping in of some assumptive or presumptive one-liners, such as, did you enjoy the kettlebell swings we were just doing? Yes, I did. Well, that's the kind of thing we'll be doing in the future when we train together. Now, it doesn't have to be quite so overt and obvious as that, but if you drop in those kind of one-liners where there is an assumption that you will be working out together in the future, that simply means that the member is then painting a picture in their own head of the future with you in it. And that's very important, because when they come to being asked whether they want the service in the future or not, they've kind of been convincing themselves that yes, that's something they've already pictured, and they've already almost closed themselves in that deal. Okay, so there are some of the buying signs. If the answer is yes to all of these questions, and you have accepted your role as a commercially driven business person, you can now present prices. I want to just focus very, very quickly on that. Accept your role as a commercially driven business person. In other words, you'll be very comfortable speaking to them about their goals. You'll be very comfortable showcasing your kettlebell swing, your whatever it is that you're doing in the park, in the home, in the gym. You might feel a little bit more unsure of yourself as soon as you start talking about prices. Now, you are a savvy consumer, and I'll go into this in more detail in a second. You are a savvy consumer just as much as I am, and anybody else out there in the high street is. We know when somebody believes or doesn't believe that something they're selling is worth the price tag. If you don't believe that what you're doing is worth the money that you are charging, do one of two things. Find out a way of becoming more confident, or reduce your prices. Simple as that. If you can find out a way of justifying your prices and believing you're worth it, stick with that one. Don't reduce your prices, because that doesn't actually help anybody, not you, and actually not your member in the long term. But yeah, you need to accept that you are commercially driven, i.e. you do not have a registered charity number, and therefore you are not going to do this for free. The next time you go into a physio and you pay good money for a consultation or a treatment or both, just look at the way that the physio requests the money. Absolutely stone cold, total belief in what they're charging, and an absolute acceptance that an assumption that you are going to pay that money. And guess what? You do. You don't question it. So you should be absolutely no different at all. Okay. Good. Right, let's go on to the next one. Hopefully you can see a picture of 3 cars. Now you may wonder why the hell there's a picture of 3 cars on there. Let me just talk you through this, because it's research-led, this kind of way of presenting prices. I didn't make this up. This is research-led, and not just by the health and fitness industry, but also by other industries as well, where selling is paramount to that particular business. I'm going to talk you through this as if I'm selling to somebody. I'm just going to sell one of these 3 cars to you. You are a price-sensitive consumer. However, you do need to buy a car today. So here you are. I'm going to present 3 cars to you. The bottom one is, as you can see, it's the car in the loosest sense of the term. It's got 4 wheels and it's got a roof, but and it switches on and the engine works, and it kind of goes, it kind of stops, and it kind of turns as well. But I wouldn't necessarily say it was a fantastic piece of kit. Number 2 is a reliable car. It's clean. It's got medium mileage. Hasn't got any sort of fancy things on it, but it works. It gets you there, and will be a reliable purchase. Number 3, the top one, all the bells and whistles, got all the cool stuff on it. It's low mileage, and yeah, that's the kind of car that you're going to show off to your mates with. Car 1 at the bottom is low price, high mileage. Car 2 is medium price, medium mileage. Car 3 at the top is high price, very high price, and low mileage. You're probably all thinking right now as to which one you might purchase. I doubt many of you are going to purchase the bottom one. I think some of you might go for the top one, but most of you are going to be looking at the middle one, because you are a price-sensitive consumer. Research suggests that when presented with 3 similar commodities of rising price, such as this, 80% of consumers, price-sensitive consumers, will go for the middle option. They don't see the return on investment of the bottom one. They don't see the point in forking out loads of money for the top one, so they go for the middle one. And that is, I think, is a decent starting point for presenting personal training prices. Okay, we'll go on to the next slide just to see what that looks like in our world. Here's a simple example. Here's my price presentation, and it's very, very simple, and this is kind of one of the acid tests of it. I've got packages down the left-hand side, which is the number of sessions. I've got a price on the second column, a price per hour on the third column, and any other additional extras that I can offer the member as an incentive. Note that I'm going to start at the top with platinum, and I'm going to go for 10. I've named it after a precious stone, a precious metal. It seems to be the sort of the traditional thing to do. I still think it works. You can call them any number of things you want. You can call them Bob, Sheila, and Terry if you want, but I don't think you'll get much traction from that because it doesn't resonate from a value perspective. Platinum, gold, and silver does, but it's completely up to you. I've put the sessions in there. I've not made it too many sessions, 20 plus, and you start to get into the realms of even with a discount in price per hour, you're still talking about a lot of money. So I would potentially steer clear from that unless you're working in a in an area where you know that kind of volume is easily sellable. Also, by the way, selling loads and loads of sessions at once, great when you get the payment, but you know you might well be 6 months away from receiving payment again from that person, and therefore there is a cash flow consideration from that perspective. So 400 quid for 10 sessions, which is a £40 per hour price point. In that platinum price point, or that package, you will get a movement assessment, a body composition test, and I'll get you a heart rate monitor as part of a gold package, 225, and as you can see there, the price per hour is £45, and you can choose 2 of those added extras, up to you which one you choose, or 2 you choose. And finally, the silver one, 150 quid, £50 an hour, and you only get to choose 1 of those extras. Couple of tips for you. In a Western society, we read from the top left. So look at those prices. The first price you probably clocked your eyes on was £400. I often see price presentations where the trainer starts off with the single session price at the top. Now, first of all, you'll notice there is no single session on that price presentation. That's for good reason. I'll talk about that in a minute. But my highest price is the first one that the member will read, because I want that to be the reference point. Let's say that 150, let's say we just flicked it around and went silver, gold, platinum from top to bottom. 150 is now my first offer, my first package price. And guess what? Gold is more than 150, so gold is more than my reference point. And £400, platinum is at the bottom, and it's a lot more than my silver package reference point. And that puts me on the back foot as a consumer as to whether actually I'm going to go for anything other than the lowest point. Flick it around to the way that I presented it here. £400 is my price point, my initial price point, and therefore it's my reference. Everything else on the price presentation is lower than 400. So I'm thinking subconsciously that everything else is a better deal than my reference point, which of course it is. So I'm more likely to buy the gold 225 than I am if the silver and platinum were flicked over the other way around. You've got the extras in there so that you can put a little bit of incentive in there as well. You can maybe align an actual cash value to those things. A movement assessment, half an hour, worth £30. Body composition, half an hour, worth £30. Heart rate monitor, worth 25 quid. You can add some actual value to give an extra incentive. One thing I need you to just to really be sure of is that this is absolutely clear. There's no ambiguity whatsoever, and it passes the mum test. Now, when I say a mum test, take your price presentation to your mum. Do not say a word. Show it to them. Show it to her. She shouldn't need to ask you a single question to understand what it is that you are selling and how much it is. If she has to ask you a question, you've either missed out some detail or you've made the whole thing too complicated. That's the mum test. If she can see it and go, yep, I can see which one I would buy, I can see what it is that's within each one, that's fine. I would like to buy whatever, silver, gold, platinum. Offer incentive, which is the extras there. The extras also, of course, is the decreasing price per hour as you buy more sessions. You want to encourage the member to buy more sessions because with that comes a greater commitment. So the £40 as a price point for 10, obviously a significant saving over the £50 price point per session for the silver. Give yourself room to maneuver. I'll move on to that on the next slide because I want you, if you can, to not present the single session, or alternatively, not present the lowest price or the lowest package that you will be potentially presenting. I'll talk about that in a second. Test it out. That's the mum test, and then we're on to the objections. Okay, I'm just going to check on. Okay, you're all still with me. No other messages to say that you've lost me, so we'll move on. Objections. Okay, there's the common three, and they are as follows: price, time, and that horrible one, which is I'll think about it, which no one likes because it's a real pain in the backside and sometimes difficult to overcome. But I'll give you hopefully a strategy to do that. Let's take the price one first of all. First of all, when you've got a price objection, just immediately comfort the person, because as a consumer, if you've got a price objection, they're not going to feel particularly comfortable about telling you, I can't afford it. So immediately empathize and say, yeah, I understand it is a big investment. I know earlier on that you told me how important it was to you, but I do appreciate that it is a significant investment. There's your one-liner, which says, I care enough to appreciate that you feel a bit uneasy about the price. That's what you're saying to the member there, or the prospect. Right. I talked to you on the last slide about not putting your single session price or your lowest package on the first page of your price presentation. When I say page one, it might be slide one. It might be that you've got it hidden in another part on your tablet. It might be that you've haven't got it on a separate page on your printed out in hard copy, laminated, whatever it is. I probably wouldn't present it on your phone. I just think it looks a little bit casual, showing somebody your phone. If you're going to do it on a significant size screen or on paper. If somebody has a price objection and they've already seen your lowest price, you simply don't have anywhere to go. You've put all of your cards on the table. There's nothing left up your sleeve, to continue my magician analogies. If you put the single session price as, let's say, it's 60 quid in this particular example, on your initial price presentation on page one, and they say, I can't afford it, where else are you going to go? It's going to be very, very difficult. So just go back to that one there. The lowest I've offered is £150, and that may well be too much for a single transaction for the prospect. So I then go, yeah, no problem, empathize, 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 get on a level. Here's page two. I do have a single session that I can offer you. However, there won't be any added extras in that, like the body composition test, etc., etc. That is a £60 price point. How does that sound? And when you ask a question, when presenting prices, if your price presentation is clear, you shouldn't need to ask anything else and say anything else once you've asked that question. So if I was to say to you, okay, no problem, I understand that it's a significant investment. I do have a single session price, which is £60. How does that sound? I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to wait for the answer. I'm not going to fill the void with inconsequential rubbish, because all that does is tell the consumer that I'm not confident in making the sale. So I'm going to be quiet and just wait for the answer. At the bottom there, you'll see a bespoke package. That is for somebody who, again, apologies, I'm going to go back to that, who doesn't fit into one of these. They don't want 10, they don't want 5, they don't want 3, and they don't want one session, because guess what? They're getting married in 17 weeks' time, and she wants 17 sessions between now and then. And you're going to come up with a bespoke package. And guess what? It's called a wedding package in this particular situation. And you're going to offer the price point of, I don't know, it was £40, wasn't it, for 10? So maybe you can offer a £38 price point. You get your calculator out. You do 38 times 17 weeks of training, and there's your price. It's bespoke because it's there, it's specific to that person, but it resonates with that individual. Something that I used to do that was a little bit of a bit of a tip that I still think is relevant today, is that when somebody had a specific goal, let's take wedding for example, I would say that's fantastic, great news, hope you're looking forward to your wedding. I have a wedding package that I can offer you. Suddenly, the bride-to-be is sitting up, she's on the edge of a seat, and she's ears are pricked, and she's thinking, wow, This guy is a specialist in getting brides ready for their wedding day. Fantastic. Where do I sign? All it was a bespoke package with 17 sessions in it. But I just put it in a nice pink box, put a ribbon around it, and called it a wedding package. The member doesn't need to know specifically that you have a speciality of getting brides to be ready for their wedding. They just need to know that you know about them, and that you can tailor. Okay, so a little tip there. By the way, I haven't discussed any other types of price presentation. Some PTs present in time. In other words, present for a month, or present can get a little bit more complicated, because that would be driven by the number of sessions they do per week, 1, 2, or 3, once a fortnight, or whatever. Whereas this way, which is just a volume of sessions, is absolutely simple, and the member will then dictate to you how much time they can commit to you. 1 session a week, 2 sessions a week. Of course, that will determine the duration of the package. Okay, now it's a time objection. So they haven't got a price objection, it is now a time objection. Is it frequency or duration? It's going to be one of them, so just ask the question. Is it the number of sessions per week that you're not sure that you can commit to with me, or is it the length of the session because I've been presenting hours to you and you'd like to work out in your lunch hour and you've only got 30 to 45 minutes? Simply reduce the relevant one. If it's frequency, no problem. I understand that twice a week is going to be difficult for you. How about we just train once a week? Done. No problem. I understand that an hour is a bit tricky and you need to work out in your lunch times. That's fantastic. I tell you what I'll do. I'll present a different package either on email, or if you've got one already presented, already prepared, fine. Here are my 45 minutes session prices. If you are going to reduce the time that you spend with the client to 45 minutes or 30 minutes, just make sure it's worth your while. If your session price for a block of 10 is £40, but now you're selling half-hour slots, just make sure that your price point is not 20, but a little bit more than 20. I just wanted to make sure that you've got the value for doing that shorter session. Just like you get more for doing less in a block, I'd want you to get more per minute from doing less duration. Then the I'll think about it. You need to have preceded it with an important question earlier on in the consultation or free taster or whatever it is that you are leading up to. And that question is this. If you ask the member how long they've been thinking about taking action towards the weight loss, the body change, the whatever it is that their goal is, they'll probably say to you a significant amount of time. The average amount of time in this country that people think about joining a gym before they actually do so is 12 to 18 months. A huge amount of time. So you can bet your life that the person you're speaking to didn't just think about losing weight 5 minutes ago. It's probably been weeks, months before coming to see you. So on the basis that that is a long time, and they agree that it's a long time, fast forward to the price presentation, and they want to think about it. Now you've got a little bit more armory to say, okay, you did mention earlier on that you've been thinking about this for 6 months, and we agreed that was quite a long time. Is there anything else that I can help you with in terms of information so we can make a decision today? Use that kind of line in order that you can overcome that I'll think about it objection. But clearly you wouldn't be able to answer that or combat that objection unless you answer that important question before in the session. Okay? Good. Right. This is something that I want you to just to pledge to yourself. If you get to the stage during any point in this consultation, the price presentation, the objections, where you feel like the member is not going to purchase, wants you to reduce your prices, wants to reduce the time, so therefore the price as well, just know when to walk away. Know when to show the member the door. I don't mean that, of course, in aggressive way, but just know when to say, I understand, no problem at all. I tell you what, why don't I give you a call in a couple of weeks' time, see how you're getting on, and then we can pick it up from there if necessary. What I wouldn't want you to do is start undercutting yourself so that you now have an average price point of 25 quid and you've got to do so many more sessions because your yield is so low that you end up burning out. Keep committed to yourself, keep committed to your price point. That's what you're worth. If you review it after a number of different rejections or unclosed sales, that's fine. But if a single member is in front of you with a number of objections, let them walk. Okay, Commitment Street is two-way, as I've said there. Finally then, tie the knot. So you've secured your sale. Gain further commitment as soon as possible. So strike while the iron's hot. Don't leave them to go away and ponder on things whilst they're sat in the car or on the train on their way home. Make the first booking. That's always a good way to get something in the diary. Then the commitment is pretty much there. Offer a welcome pack. That might be linked to the heart rate monitor that was part of the package. It might be a t-shirt. It might be a water bottle. I don't know. Whatever it is, you decide. But get something in their hands that is a tangible offering. Sign a client agreement. It doesn't have to be a legally binding document. In fact, I would advise that it is not, simply because if it is, it would probably go to about 6 pages, and none of which would be able to understand because it's all in Latin, and it would be a pretty cold end to what has been a very productive session to close that sale. The client agreement is quite an informal one-page document that says, you bought this, you bought it on this date, and you've committed to these number of sessions. The sessions expire on this date, and a various number of other things. If you look up on Google PT client agreement, you could probably get a couple of templates in order to get a steer on what that looks like. And of course, no greater commitment than to take the payment up front before making that first booking. Okay, just to close there now, remember that your new client has successfully traveled through your business funnel. I'm going to go to the last slide now as to what that looks like. So have faith in that funnel. Repeat the process until your diary's full and your commercial targets are being hit. Hopefully you all have a commercial target, which is the amount of money you would like to make in a given year. It might be your business year, or it might be a calendar year. They might be one and the same thing. But you are commercially driven, so you need to make sure that you are hitting those targets and that you have a means of generating business that maintains speed with that growth potential. That is what that funnel looks like. You have to attract a load of members. In other words, you have to source leads that you can potentially sell to. You then have to connect to them, and that was part of my previous webinar about connecting through a taster session and through those non-practical and practical skills. You're then going to showcase with your amazing skills with the various equipment that you have, either in your gym or park. And then align, and that's what we've gone through today, which is about aligning all of those great experiences that they've just had, connection experiences, personal experiences, exercise experiences. Simply align those experiences to a number, and that number is hopefully your platinum package, or it might be your gold, because 80% of consumers go for that middle option. Worst case scenario, it's the silver package, three sessions, 150 quid, and that's not a bad day's work if you do that 2 or 3 times a day. And then support, of course, will be the maintenance of that customer, ongoing retention, great service delivery as the personal trainer. Okay, key takeaways from me: create desire and value, and only then can you begin to align your prices. You've got to precede the prices with desire and value and get that positive wave of affirmation so that you can you can make sure that you can successfully align your prices. Do the mum test with your price presentation. Keep it simple. I had a chat with a PT about 6 months ago who unfortunately had to leave our business at Fitness First excuse me, because she had 17 prices on her price presentation. That's not the way to do it. You wouldn't go into a restaurant that had 17 different options as a starter. You'd probably go into the restaurant that had 3 or 4. Not 1, not 17, probably somewhere in the middle. Don't reveal all of your cards, and understand the likely objections and what to do next. Do not put that single session or the lowest package that you're going to offer on page 1 of your price presentation. And finally, tie the knot. Keep things formally informal. And that really is a reference to that client agreement. Don't make it a 27-page legally binding document, because if there's anything to throw water on this nicely warming up relationship, then it's a legally binding document. Okay, that's my advice. Good. Right. Just before I open up all of the questions, that's our website. That's my Twitter feed if you're interested in following me. And just as a little bit of an incentive, if any of you have any aspirations of being a PT in a gym environment there, and you're not currently a PT with Fitness First, then drop me a line either through the website. You can apply for a PT role through the website, or you can drop me a direct message via my Twitter, and I will be more than happy to arrange a reduced license fee up until the end of April is where we'll hold that off until for you. Okay, so now open to you for any questions. I'll open the control panel, and let's see. Okay. Somebody from, I think, called Madeline said, does it matter that the most expensive price is at the top? I think that was possibly asked before I explained that one. So hopefully that is answered, Madeline. But yes, it does matter. I think so anyway. You can try it with the lowest price at the bottom, but as soon as that becomes the reference point, let's say your single session price is at the top. That's going to suddenly become that reference point against which everything else is compared. So leave it out, put the highest at the top, and go from there is my advice. Okay. Oh yeah, Madeline, you've answered it. Yeah, fantastic. Okay. Let me see if there's any more questions. Okay. One question here is about how many sessions. Okay, how many sessions is the maximum that you would probably try and sell at any one time? I've made a brief reference to it in the presentation, which is that I would probably go for a 10 to 15 as a maximum. It's probably driven a little bit by the demographics of the area that you are in, but 10 to 15 is probably the max I would go for. If you go to 20, you're probably going to have to reduce your price per hour significantly to incentivize somebody to part with what would probably still be a pretty high, a pretty big number, and therefore it probably becomes a little bit prohibitive. If you work in central London or anywhere else that is, you know, a bit more flush with money, shall we say, it might be more relevant. But even then, your price point's going to be so much higher that. Okay, one more question. Let me see. You mentioned putting a time limit in which the client can take their booked sessions. Is that crucial? That is from Madeline again. Yes, I think it is, Madeline, and I speak from bitter experience here, because I remember selling packages of 10 without an expiry, and I remember one particular client who a year later had 4 sessions remaining. What a waste of time. It was a waste of time because that person was clearly not committed to a number of sessions in a short period of time, and it was a waste of my time because I was constantly chasing that person to book their remaining 4 sessions. My advice would be that on the assumption that you know how many sessions a week that that person wants to do, let's say somebody says, right, I'm going to commit to 2 sessions a week and I'm going to buy the platinum package of 10 sessions. So in theory, that person should get through the sessions in 5 weeks, 2 times a week for 10 sessions. However, I would give them some leeway based on the fact that they might be ill, they might be a little bit injured, they might be out away on work or whatever, caught in traffic, something might get in the way. So I would say, look, that expiry is 7 weeks. So add, say, 20% or so to the what would logically be the end date, and just say, okay, the package expires in 7 weeks from today, and that just means that you get to see them more often, you get to create a habit with them, they get to you get to sell to them sooner so that you can renew and get some better cash flow into your business. And guess what? If they're seeing you 10 times in 5 weeks, they're going to get some pretty good results if that continues on that trend. They won't if they see you half a dozen times in a year, which was my mistake. Okay, right. Food diary analysis can be included in the price or charged separately. If so, how much can I charge? It depends how, and that's from Tomoko? Anyway, whoever you are. Tomo. Let's go with Tomo. Yeah, a food analysis. If you are a qualified dietitian or nutritionist, you can go into huge amounts of detail and therefore absolutely put together packages based on your nutritional advice. If you are simply asking somebody to take a very, very brief food diary and give them some advice based on what is logical and what you know as a level 3 personal trainer, but without being a dietitian or nutritionist, 2 things. One, that probably shouldn't be in huge amounts of depth, and you probably shouldn't be advising somebody on their nutrition and dietary habits if you are not qualified to do so. That's the first thing, because if somebody eats something they're not supposed to, or something that you do but doesn't agree with them, and you're not a qualified dietitian or nutritionist, then that could land you in a bit of hot water. Secondly, dietary habits for 99% of your membership will just be logical or illogical, as the case may be. They're eating, 3 sausage rolls from Greg's before breakfast. That clearly is not logical and is common sense. You don't need to be a dietitian to do that, and therefore you can probably give them a pretty good service in a half an hour of your time, and therefore you could integrate it into your package options. Okay. I've had my first consultation yesterday. My client signed for 25 sessions, wow, in central London and paid up front. I feel very proud, but I have many doubts now. Oh dear. This is from Angelica. Well done, Angelica, first of all, on such a big sale. Well done. Financially speaking, do you have to give an invoice? He's my first client, so I don't have a big income. Well, you do now. I just sold 25 sessions. Do I have already to register myself as self-employed? Okay, there's 3 or 4 questions in there. I'll try and hit them as quickly as possible. And maybe one more question after that, then we'll probably need to call it a day. Right, so let's take the first one. Do I have to give an invoice? No, you don't. If they ask for one, it's because they need one for maybe private medical insurance or whatever means that they're using to pay it. If they're paying out of their business, then they probably will need an invoice in order to maintain accounting legalities. You don't have to. If you give them a receipt for payment, it just means that there is a proof of purchase. So I would advise giving a receipt. You can buy a duplicate receipt book from Smith's or any stationers for a couple of quid. Even the client agreement that I just mentioned in the presentation, you can use that as proof of purchase because you'll have a space on there that says, dear whoever, congratulations, you have purchased 25 sessions that will expire on this date and you have spent this much money. So you can use a proper receipt, or you can use the You can use the client agreement. Do I have to register myself as self-employed? Legally, yes, you do. If you are self-employed, then you need to register yourself as such from the day you start trading. Now, don't worry too much if you got your 25 clients yesterday, Angelica. Don't panic. They won't fine you. All you need to do is go online and just type in registering as self-employed, and that will come up with a load of pages from hmrc.gov.uk. So hmrc, the letters, .gov.uk. And if you put into the search register self-employed, there will be a self-employed helpline that is an 0845 or something else number. And it's literally as simple as a 10-minute conversation. They will simply ask you who you are, what you want to be. Do you want to be a sole trader? The answer is probably yes, you do want to be a sole trader. What's your business called? And they will give you, they will register you there and then. They'll give you a unique tax-paying reference number, and then you're away. It's pretty much as simple as that. Okay. Genius about expiry date. Thank you very much. I'm a registered nutritionist and would agree with your advice. Seen some very suspect advice being given. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'll make this the last one. Who's this from? Carol. Yeah, the strong advice there, just to leave it on, is that we need to make sure that we stay within the confines of our education and our knowledge. We are not physios, and therefore we wouldn't be advising people on shoulder reconstructions and other orthopedic procedures. In the same way that you would not be advising people on in the depths of nutrition, which is a hugely, or can be, a hugely complicated subject if you want it to be. So please stay within the realms of your qualification. Okay, last one, very quickly. What about pricing for group sessions? Let's just tackle that very quickly. Yes, there's two very simple rules with a group session. First of all, make sure that you've got the space in which to execute a good group session. When I say groups, I wouldn't advise doing anything up to more than 3 or 4, because then it becomes a boot camp, and that's a different thing altogether. If you're going to give people quality service that is aligned more closely to PT rather than boot camp, then I wouldn't say more than 3, 4 at an absolute push if they are friends and like-minded exercises. I think more than that would be very, very difficult. And the second thing is make it worth your while. Give the incentive to the participant. Let's say your single session price is £50. They can't afford it, but they come as a 3. You give it to them for £30 each, because that's a significant saving for each and every one of them. But you make 90 quid, and you're going to be making every penny of that £90, because it's going to be difficult to get the logistics right. It's going to be a challenge to prepare the session. It's going to be a challenge when the individuals have got different capabilities and different goals, perhaps, where you can't necessarily do all of the same kind of exercises. So it is tricky, it is challenging. So yeah, make it worth your while is my advice, but it can be fantastic because it's great fun to do small group sessions. Small group PT has been on the horizon for a long, long time as being the next big thing in the PT industry. No one's quite cracked it yet. We're going to have a go at it at some point or other. But small group PT is great, and it makes the PT, certainly a self-employed model, a lot of money. Okay. Right, I think that's probably it now. We're pretty much running out of time. So thank you very much for your time, everybody. I hope you've gained something from it. As you can see on the screen there, you've got my contact details there, or our website. Let me know if you have any other questions that I have not had time to answer. Otherwise, thank you very much, and we shall speak soon. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.